and I saw a girl standing across the way. I remember literally thinking to myself, I really want to go talk to her, but I'm not that kind of guy. I'm a shy guy, very introverted. And then I literally remember thinking in my head, nobody here knows who I am. They don't know anything about me. I can decide to be anybody I want to be. So why not be the guy that goes and asks this girl out? And so I went, struck up a conversation with her. So I said, I'm turning 18 this weekend. Do you want to come with me and my friends to the palace? And my wife now, she says, absolutely not. I have a boyfriend. There's no way. We started dating after I had graduated, and we had broke up with our respective partners and then got married eventually. So
we love the San Gabriel Valley. There are some amazing people and businesses here, and we think they deserve the spotlight. Welcome to the SGV Master Key Podcast. We'll have on the people that make the SGV great. We'll find out what makes them tick, their ups and downs, their history, and we're going to have fun doing it. This is the SGV Master Key Podcast. And now your hosts, Scott Warmoth and Russell Mano.
All right, SGVers, welcome back to another episode of the SGV Master Key Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new here, we document and share the stories of the people of the San Gabriel Valley. Someone had said earlier this week, or last week rather, that we are capturing the oral history, which is very true of what we do. And of course, if you're a returning listener, welcome back. Stay tuned. We're happy to bring you another exciting guest today. Yesterday we went out and brought our show, our people, our team to the field for the first time, right? To interact with one of our previous guests. And that was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, it was fun. We went to, in this case, it was a restaurant. And got to see behind the scenes, right, what goes on, as if we didn't know already, since I was a dishwasher when I was a kid. But it's very, I liked it. We do kind of get a different perspective of a guest we've already talked to.
Right. But I think one of the more important things that resulted from that experience was what you said this morning, is to be clear on what our mission is, and that we're not a chamber. We're not there to do their marketing or promote them, that our mission is really to document and share the history of the San Gabriel Valley. Yeah,
and I think we've been real true to that, to define what we're doing. We want to create a history so that 50, 100 years from now, people can find out what was going on here in the San Gabriel Valley at this point in time. And also those guests have something that they can share with their family.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's such an amazing thing to have this show where they can say, here, check this out, right? Where they may not have had that opportunity or that time, to share with a family, friend, a loved one. I think that's really powerful. That's something that I often share with the guests of, to consider coming on a show like this. But it was also a fun experience, right? Going out to.
Yeah, I'm glad we chose a restaurant because I ate 1.5 meals.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, before we get to our guest, just a reminder, we've partnered with San Gabriel Valley Now, your source for city news, announcements, events, special savings, and everything SGV. Check them out on Instagram, sgv.now, and read their new SGV Now magazine on their website, sgvnow.com. Well, I'm excited to get better at that, going out there, meeting our guest. But let's get into today's guest. His name is Jesse Torres. He's principal for ArroyoWest. Jesse, welcome to the show.
So great to be on. Love the mission and the purpose of Master Key. Just a real pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Yeah, you came as a referral from a previous guest, which is sort of how this show grows, and it's wonderful that we get introduced to so many people organically like this. So the show is called the SGV Master Key Podcast. What is your connection to the San Gabriel Valley?
Sure. So I would say I'm a fairly recent transplant. I got to give a shout out to the original valley, the San Fernando Valley, which is where I grew up. But because of my wife, who grew up in South Pasadena, when we got married, we moved from the west side to San Gabriel first, with the long-term goal of then moving eventually to South Pasadena, which is where I live now. So it's really because of my wife that I'm an SGV fan. And I got to tell you, although I will always stay true to Reseda, I really embrace the SGV. I feel like, I've become like an SGV advocate. So it's a pleasure to live in this area.
Okay. Reseda sticks out in my mind for one reason only.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about Karate Kid. Let's talk about how the motel was 3 blocks from my house.
Was it?
And that field where he runs through and gets jumped by the Cobra Kai is still there.
The original, where he jumps the fence. Wow.
The motel is still there. In fact, a License to Drive with Corey Feldman's, the Coreys, also filmed near my house. So
wow. Okay.
Reseda has a rich history of popular movies. I learned breakdancing in the Cobra Kai dojo, So yeah.
Did you see the filming? Were you living there?
I don't remember the filming. I don't remember the filming at all. I do remember the filming for License to Drive, but not for Karate Kid. But yeah, it was it's a huge claim to fame for me, of course, that I leverage all the time.
Oh yeah.
Whenever I hear Reseda, I'm like, oh yeah, because I'm a huge Karate Kid fan. So
yeah, it's legit. And the new show is amazing. Yeah,
yes,
shout out
absolutely
to Cobra Kai and the whole Karate Kid family.
Yeah. So sorry for that tangent. So now do you consider yourself now a part of the SGV? Do you?
I really do. It's hard not to feel yourself just become embedded to the fabric of the community, especially where I live in South Pasadena. Is such a walkable city, such a strong community vibe, which is designed for that way. But even when I was living in San Gabriel, the city of San Gabriel is the same thing. The welcoming community, just we're really blessed, not just in the San Gabriel Valley, but in California, to just have access to so much diversity and food, amazing food, and just things that really, the small businesses that exist in the area, things that create the sense of community. Like, we're really blessed to just have so much riches around that here in the San Gabriel Valley.
How long have you lived here?
I guess all in about 10 years now at this point. I'm trying to remember. I'm too old now to remember exactly when we first came out, but it's been a while. So I'm feeling pretty embedded now.
And South Pasadena has its own unique vibe or culture, doesn't it?
It really does.
Even separate from Pasadena.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. When we first moved in, we actually had, I remember that my wife and her friends, they all pretty much grew up in South Pasadena. And when we moved into our stretch of South Pass, I remember the first reaction we got, I was like, oh, you're kind of in the bad part of South Pasadena. I was thinking, oh, in my perspective, it's so amazing. And it's just that, we're a little bit closer to the city of LA, that's what they kind of viewed us. But it's very, the vibe there is, I kind of compare it to Mayberry a whole lot, because you do get to know all your neighbors. I mean, we have a little mission district where there's lots of shops and good food, and the schools are all around us. So you're kind of this little ecosystem on your own, right? It's very, I don't know, it's a cool place to live. And the school districts, nobody can beat it. And it's why a lot of people want to move there.
Yeah. When I think of South Pass, I think of a couple areas. One is the Bristol Farms area, right? And then Fair Oaks, where the old soda shop is, and then the Mission, where all the restaurants are. Those areas stand out to me as South Pass.
Yeah.
Right.
What I always suggest to you is that to explore the southern part of South Pass, where we're known for Costin Ranch. Are you guys familiar with Costin Ranch?
Not at all.
Okay. So if you go to the Natural History Museum of LA, they have an exhibit on Los Angeles, the history of Los Angeles. There is one last feature of that exhibit all about South Pasadena and the Costin Ostrich Ranch that used to be there. And all the train lines the trolley lines used to come from downtown Los Angeles to South Pasadena just to see the ostrich farm. And so a lot of the kind of mapping of the city was kind of built around this ostrich farm, which was before Disneyland, was the spot to go and encounter unique things about Los Angeles. So for me, when I think of South Pass, I always think about that history first, because first I live on Costin Avenue, which is named after the ostrich ranch. And you get this vibe, also our proximity to the Arroyo Seco, of kind of I don't know how to describe it, but kind of a more rural, not rural, but that there was at one point ranches here, or farm, or working farm, and that kind of connection to this kind of older history of Los Angeles, which I think is really cool.
So is that the area near where there's ball fields there?
That's right.
And in fact, there's a little golf course.
Yes, right.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Down on the Arroyo.
That's right.
So it's from Pasadena. It's Arroyo. It's not Arroyo Drive. It's Arroyo.
Arroyo Seco. The Arroyo Seco encompasses that the golf course, the baseball fields, It's also a natural kind of preserve, trail hikes, things like that. You'll see horses there all the time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there's some good soccer fields and baseball fields, I remember in particular.
Yeah. You'll find actual placards there, historical placards around the area. Like, this is where the ostrich farm used to be. This is where I think they held like the first kind of church services here when it was essentially like the missionaries, that kind of thing. So you'll see little spots of like, oh, there's a connection here to a longer history. Route 66 runs through South Pasadena. So yeah, I mean, that's actually why I'm a history buff, LA history buff. And to see little markers of like, oh, there was something here before, and it's all tied into the current history and how we were laid out, and how we interact with our natural environment. So I find that just really fascinating.
Yeah, I used to walk that area all the time. I really love it. There's an archery field. I don't know what you call it, archery.
Yeah, an archery practice range, and there's also even a fly fishing practice area right down there.
Yeah.
Have you ever been to Devil's Gate Dam?
I don't think so, no.
So it's up on this Arroyo Seco, but it was a very treasured place for the Tongva, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's on the other side of the Rose Bowl.
That is, right.
Yeah, from where we're talking about.
Oh.
So if you went up to the top of the Rose Bowl.
To the north, towards Altadena?
No, yes, I guess it's towards Altadena, isn't it?
It is. So like, let's say you're traveling 210 west where it
towards
changes.
JPL.
That's right. And you would go north on it.
Yeah.
I forget where you exit. Like there's a Jack in the Box there off the exit.
Yeah. I have to say, I'm good at directions and orienting myself, but I lived next to the Rose Bowl for, 10 or 15 years, and I could never tell you where was east and where was west.
Yeah.
Only now I can.
Something about that. It's like the Twilight Zone. Because I do the same thing. Like even how I get to the Rose Bowl, like I'm always like, why am I having to make a left here when I have it?
It's very confusing, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, Jesse, let's get more back to you and your story. So what was it like growing up in Reseda before you made your way out here?
Oh, I always remember it, for those of us who are old enough, the 80s, for those who weren't in Southern California in the 80s, especially in the San Fernando Valley, just it was exactly kind of what you see in the movies. Like, it was a mall culture. All the kids were on
Frank
bike.
Zappa.
Yeah, Frank Zappa. Exactly, Valley Girl. Which, by the way, my kids can quote a line from Valley Girl. I haven't let them watch the entire movie, but there's one specific line that I made them memorize. But it was very much like that.
Wait a minute. Which line was that?
Okay, when Nicolas Cage is, he's the working at the movie theater and he's taking tickets, and then the girl he likes comes in with her then current boyfriend. And Nicolas Cage is wearing 3D glasses, right? And so then this guy who he doesn't like says, "Oh, is this movie in 3D?" And then Nicolas Cage says, "No, but your face is." And like the guy didn't know what to do with that. It's such a weird thing to say. And my kids love that line. But yeah, it was exactly that. At least for a good part of the majority of the 80s, swimming pools, hopping over neighbors' walls. Nobody cared if you went and swam in their pool, riding bikes. So that kind of imagery that you think of, going to the mall to play video games, having Slurpees, all that. And then, and then into the 90s when I was then in my high school years, these things changed really quickly. The demographics of the area changed. I remember my neighborhood going from Jewish to then Latino to Filipino, and I loved it. For me, it was like, oh, I get to interact with people from all different types of cultures and experience their food and understand what they're all about. So what I saw was this kind of like diversification of the region, and also struggles there, my neighborhood now, if I went back, I think has kind of dipped into a lower poverty area. There's a lot of things being done to kind of revitalize the community, but there was just such significant change, from my experience there. But I loved growing up there. It was great. My grandparents lived in the city of San Fernando, not too far away, and which is almost like going to Mexico, at least it was back then. And so even that was such a unique experience to, go from where I lived in Reseda, which was, I call it, idyllic American life, then to the city of San Fernando to spend time with my grandparents, which was almost like stepping into Mexico because everybody spoke Spanish. You're like, all the food there is Mexican. I just experienced that kind of real unique blend, which I think is what California is all about. This like merging of demographics and cultures. And so, you know, it was really great. You know, I really loved growing up in the Valley.
Awesome. And so where did your journey go, like after high school and school and all that?
Sure. So went to UCLA for undergraduate. I was, you know, one of the first in my family to go to college. My parents are both Mexican immigrants. And I remember deciding to go to UCLA because my friends were all going to UCLA. You know, I had no real concept of what college was going to be all about. You know, even doing my college applications, you don't get a whole lot of direction because that wasn't the experience of my parents. And so I thought, well, it seems like a good school. You know, all my friends are going, I'm going to go. And I was fortunate enough that first day of school at UCLA in front of the Math 3A building, it's where I met my wife. I was 17, turning 18 that weekend, literally my first class. And I saw a girl standing across the way outside the building. And I remember literally thinking to myself, you know, I really want to go talk to her, but, you know, I'm not that kind of guy. I'm a shy guy, you know, very introverted. And then I literally remember thinking in my head, nobody here knows who I am. They don't know anything about me. I can decide to be anybody I want to be. So why not be the guy that goes and asks this girl out? And so I went, struck up a conversation with her. We had class together, and I said to her after class, I said, you know, I'm turning 18 this weekend. Do you want to come with me and my friends to the Palace, which, you know, is now a defunct nightclub in LA? Oh, okay. and my wife now, she says, absolutely not. I have a boyfriend. There's no way. And then we became friends for 4 years. We started dating after I had graduated, and we had broke up with our respective partners. And then we dated for 8 years after that. And then got married eventually. So yeah, but
wow, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
That was a bold act, though, to at that time realize, examine yourself. Hey, I can be anything I want. I mean, did this come to you at that moment, or it's something you'd been thinking about?
I don't know how to describe it, because literally for most of my life until then, I was definitely a shy kid. You know, had friends in high school, you know, good friends, but really wasn't very outgoing or anything like that. And I just remember literally in that moment feeling like, oh, I can change. It was like a realization. It was like this kind of breakthrough of like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. There's nothing holding me back anymore from changing who I am. And it was really interesting because fundamentally parts of me haven't changed, but it's almost like I added like a new persona, and like almost like, you know, we often say like fake it till you make it. And so it's like, oh, I'm gonna fake being this outgoing guy and then see where it gets me, and then realizing like, oh, there's so much more positive things that happen when you are that kind of person who is external and you know, opening doors to friendship. And it's funny because now I'm kind of viewed as almost like a master networker. But that took time and effort. You know, that didn't happen overnight. It took years of getting used to having that kind of sentiment or mindset for it. But it was that moment. I remember feeling like, oh, like something's changed now about me. And it led to many other things.
And were you living on campus? Had you moved on campus? Was that a big change?
It was a huge change. Yeah, I lived with my close high school friends who lived in Saxon Suites, which was kind of a mistake because usually the way you do it, I think you still do it at UCLA, is you first live in one of the kind of larger dorms where you get to interact with all the other students. And then if you want to or are able, then you move to the suites, which is a little bit more farther away, a little bit more private, a little more spacious. So we kind of did the opposite. So the negative is that, you know, you didn't get to interact with this many other students, and then I actually moved to the regular dorms the next year. But the advantage that we had is that the UCLA basketball team lived in the same area, the same suites. And the year I started UCLA is when we won the national championship.
Oh, 95?
In 94, 95. Yeah. And so that was pretty incredible.
Oh, yeah.
Although one of the terrible moments is I think one of our bathroom pipes broke and leaked into the championship basketball team's dorm when I was there. Oh. It was an extraordinary experience to kind of be there and to be part of that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Who was on that team?
I'm trying to think, but there was, Tyus Edney.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
So where does your journey go from there?
Okay, so it was really interesting. So I thought I was going to we all thought we were going to become doctors, I think mostly because ER was on, right? We all wanted to be George Clooney. And then second year UCLA, quickly realized after taking organic chemistry and physics that was not my path. And so kind of struggled a bit because, didn't really sure where I wanted to go. I was a psych major. I had completed all my coursework for psychology and still had units to capture to graduate. And I thought, let me pick up an English minor. And in English is what I realized, like, oh, I love writing. I love writing. I love studying about Emerson. I became an editorial intern at the UCLA Alumni Magazine and started diving into this world of writing and editorial work. And right after UCLA, my first job was working at the LA Weekly, which is an alternative newspaper here in LA. And then really thought my path was going to be in writing. I interned there for a while. I applied for a job at the LA Times, and I lost my job at the LA Times within the same week because the week I was offered a position working they had local newspapers. I was going to be working a beat for the Montebello community paper that they had. But the week I was offered that job was the week that they were bought by the Chicago Tribune. And so they cut all the community newspapers. So I remember literally, right after college thinking like, what the heck am I going to do with my life? And had to find a job. Ended up working at USC,
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Which a funny story is I was working at the USC School of Medicine, the Norris Cancer Center, which is a separate campus from the main campus of USC. But I did show up my first day with my UCLA championship banner, my mug. I think I had a bear.
Rub it in. That's good.
And then the next day it was all gone.
Someone took it?
And I was like, I'm just going to play it cool. And, let's just see how the day goes. Towards the end of the day, this lady, Norma, came with the box and she said, I fished out all your stuff from the dumpster where my boss had thrown it out.
Oh,
and then her boss came in a little bit later and she said, you know what? I get it. You love your Bruin experience, but now you're part of the USC family. So act like it. And so I kept just my mug out. I was like, okay, it's great. But it was, a great experience. I had learned a lot about the inner workings of kind of charities. I was part of the fundraising team, did project research. And really that was my first understanding of, there's a world of nonprofits that exist. And there's a machinery behind it around like donors and donor cultivation. And, in order for these hospitals to thrive, they rely on, the generosity of people who have either been patients or, have lost people due to cancer. And so it actually opened my eyes. I didn't even really understand that until I started working there. And so that was my first real journey. I have a very complicated career line. So, I'm not sure how far you want me to go, but.
Well, I want to back up a little bit because I'm always interested in what drives people, what they're passionate about. You said that you found that you really loved writing. Mm-hmm. What was it about writing that you loved?
I think it's just the ability to storytell. Even if you're doing, say, an interview with somebody, capturing what is unique about them or what they're trying to achieve, or just the idea that you can structure a document. I actually even wrote for the Daily Bruin. I was a humor columnist there. And even that for me was so interesting. Like, I can make a mass audience laugh. I can create something that people will want to read. And so there's a little bit of legacy because you do see your name in print, that's going to stick around for a while. So there's a little bit of kind of like ego around that, but mostly it's just about how I think I can capture something here that people will want to learn about. And I can cast that in my own unique kind of way. So yeah, I have such deep respect for people who are able to really just be storytellers and capture that. I think it's so such an artistry around it,
Sure. Yeah. I always said that my father is the best storyteller I ever knew.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I remember saying like, I want to tell stories like him, meaning like he could tell the same story for the 100th time and deliver it. Like everybody would still be captivated and deliver the impactful moment the same way. And everybody would respond the same way. And I would just like, how are you doing this?
I love that. Yeah. I love it when you want them to tell the same story again and again, because it's so good. I love that. Yeah.
So, we've gotten 25 minutes into the show and maybe the audience is wondering what it is that you do. So maybe we can work backward from there.
Actually, I was wondering what you do.
Yeah. So flash forward. So I'll just say, look, for any young person out there listening, know this: I've had about 10 different careers in my life, and my path has never been linear, and I've taken something from every one of those jobs that I've had, and it's all been kind of gradual steps to something. Where I am at today is I have my own firm. It's called ArroyoWest LLC. We do consulting primarily right now in the economic and workforce development kind of space, meaning that we help agencies or organizations stand up programs around like workforce development or helping, programs that help small business community. We kind of lean into that space quite a bit. But really what we are is problem solvers. Somebody comes to us and says, I'm trying to figure out how to deliver a program. Can you help us think it through? Or we're trying to address a certain situation. Can you design a process by which we can do that effectively? So we do that quite a bit. It's me as the owner. I have one employee, Alma, who's based in Calistoga. She's not here in LA. And I have a really great set of contractors kind of scattered throughout the US who I lean on for specific talent. So my friend Mark out in Chicago, who used to be the head of Disney Stores North America, who can do market studies for me. My friend Beth, who used to work at Mintel, does extraordinary research. People who do external communications out in San Diego. So, what's kind of cool about being an entrepreneur is that you can create little teams that you can deploy for whatever the client needs. So it's been really great. I've had ArroyoWest since the end of 2019, started it just before the pandemic kicked off.
You started it right before.
That's right.
Did you have to pivot or was it okay?
So fortunately or unfortunately, I guess, depends on how you see it. Before I started ArroyoWest, I served as the small business advocate for the state of California for Governor Brown. And in my last couple of years there, in that position, I was leading disaster recovery efforts for small businesses because of the major firestorms in Northern California and then down here in Southern California. So I had a disaster background. So when the pandemic hit, my clients essentially took my scopes of work and they converted it to COVID relief. So my first 2 years was really all about helping the county stand up relief programs or helping large federal small business programs, think through how they can deploy services now in virtual environments or, communicate out their resources. So I was fortunate, knock on wood, I didn't go through probably the same pain points around revenue as others did because I was able to pivot into that kind of work. And so my first couple of years were okay. And now I'm seeing the benefit of those clients saying, okay, now let's go back to other types of work. Let's expand out your scope of work. So not just about pandemic, but now other things like strategy, or we're now growing and we need to have support. So yeah, I feel really kind of blessed, and I hate to say it because so many people went through such a hard time, but having the disaster background sure did help.
Wow.
It's interesting how a lot of people now, their career is fashioned from their experience. Mm-hmm. And these are not traditional jobs, you might say.
Yeah.
You're not working for a corporation. Your life is kind of your work, isn't it?
Totally. And I'm actually seeing that the same thing. I just offered full-time position to somebody and they're like, you know what? I'm actually more interested in being a contractor. I'm not interested in that life really anymore. And so I'm seeing this big kind of shift, at least in my circle, of people becoming their own entity and deciding what types of work they want to do.
So during that, I think you said 10 different jobs or something.
Yeah.
During that time, were you still trying to figure out your passion? Did you have an idea? What are you thinking during that time?
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. So thinking how I went about it is thinking, okay, I think I still want to do writing. So what is a way I can do writing if it's not like a newspaper? So joining a startup, back in the early 2000s when startups, the first wave of .com, starting being part of a startup what else, writing news blurbs around the music industry, working at America Online, for those people who still remember America Online as a music editor and then an editor at large. Something fascinating about that job is I was there during 9/11, and it was the first time that I saw, we converted our America Online pages. For those who don't know, America Online, that was like one of the main sources of internet news or information, and where we changed all of our platforms to address 911, blood drives, resources, and thinking, oh, what a powerful tool the internet is to allow for that immediate switch into information delivery, right? So I kind of always feel like I'm like Forrest Gump, because as I moved into different worlds and different industries, I'm seeing the world also change with me. So the internet, I was part of the internet kind of age. I went to go work for a theater, the Gaffin Playhouse, did learn fundraising, campaign stuff, worked at Pepperdine as alumni director. So all these different kind of paths. So kind of like there was a thread always of how do I, maybe not necessarily what is my career path, but what are the competencies that I have that can be of value to people, and figuring out.
But it's been communications, and also a lot of, it seems like, entertainment type.
Kinda, yeah. I always say things that involved people. Like I really communities. That for me has been really.
Did you work physically at the Geffen Playhouse?
Yeah.
Boy, that's one. I go there all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I just saw the most recent production there. Usually when my daughter comes from New York, we always head out to the Geffen Playhouse for what's happening at that time.
Yeah, it's a great place. I worked in what's called the Tower, which was said to be haunted there. So I was there.
Oh, yeah. Where is that? Part of the physical structure?
It's part of the physical structure.
The tower.
Yeah, the kind of the top.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but that was a great place. I love being around artists. I'm not artistic, but I love being around artists and people who have very different, more emotions.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's always been whenever I get a chance to work with artists, is always great.
You mentioned it was supposedly supposed to be haunted. Did you experience anything?
Yes. Okay. So because I would work there late at night sometimes, and I always remember coming. You had to go up the stairs. That's the way it was, kind of created. Like you had to go upstairs to reach our office. And I remember it was late at night, and I heard somebody working away in our office. I heard the tap of the typewriter and kind of shuffling of things. And I went up there, and there was nobody there. There's also reports of just people seeing somebody in the kitchen that we had who wasn't part of staff, or just little things like that.
It was people from USC.
It probably was, yeah, lurking.
Geffen Playhouse is right across the street from UCLA.
That's right.
Were you freaked out?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
it's always freaking out. Yeah, I think I remember hearing that one time. The gentleman who handled our annual fundraising drive, like he also heard the same thing and just like threw his stapler into the office. I mean, I always figured it was very benevolent. Nothing malicious there. So, wow. Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of the listener who may be in this similar path, right, where they're still navigating. Did you ever experience fear or worry during that time?
Oh yeah, 100%. Because especially right after I graduated UCLA, where it felt like everybody had it all together. And now looking back, or now I'm in my 40s. Realizing that a lot of that was also show. Most other people my age did not have it together. They were also kind of going through the same thing, or exploring one career, learning from it. So what I do now, especially when I was working at Pepperdine at the business school, talking to students, MBA students, I said, what, the best thing you can do if you think you want to go into a career is take an internship and explore it, research it, understand it, so that you can fully understand that this is the world you want to go into. But I just find that there's nothing wrong. In fact, I work with a lot of community colleges, and a lot of the conversation right now, or the messaging, is that, in a lifetime, somebody's going to have 7 to 8 careers now. This idea that you have one job and you stay there forever is no longer the case. And we now need to let people know that is normal, that is something that is probably actually the traditional path now of like 9 jobs in your lifetime, 10 jobs, that is going to be really common.
I have a friend who probably had 6 or 7 significant careers. And he always told me, look, if you go somewhere, you may learn in the first 6 months. If you really, put yourself to it, you can learn what other people after 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years are doing. Mm-hmm. You can learn it in the first 6 months because people tend to lose interest, or they get bored, go through a routine, and they're not learning anymore. 100%. But he said, do you feel that way?
I totally feel that way. And in fact, even in my own work, so what's cool about having your own business, especially if you call it consulting, which, you can mean anything, is that I can, if I'm interested in a certain industry or a company, I can decide tomorrow that is what my company is all about. I can say, oh, you know what? We're now focusing on retail. And I could try to find a client in that space and learn as much as I want. I could say, you know what we do today is cybersecurity, and dive into that. So maybe that's why I even have my own company, is that because I'm a continual learner, and I use my work as a way to learn about new industries, new companies, things like that. But yeah, I always found whatever career path I took, in my head, it was always about whatever the next thing is, that it should elevate me from the work I was doing before. And so instead of thinking about like, oh, I'm going to go in one company and rise through the ranks, I thought I'm going to rise through the ranks, but through the work of other companies, and differently.
Well, he always felt, he rose through the ranks and then left at the appropriate time.
Yeah.
And he was more successful than 90% of the people who remained. But in the meantime, he had moved on and gone on to something even better.
Yeah.
And just kept leveraging
Totally.
in that way.
Yeah, it was kind of the same with me. Like, I ended my time at the governor's office when Governor Brown's term ended. I could have tried to stay on, but I was like, oh, I think I've accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, and now it's time for something new.
Were you up in Sacramento?
I was actually one of the few that was based here in LA. I was very fortunate, and I was able to get my travel covered back and forth. But I was up in Sacramento quite a bit. Yeah.
Well, Jesse, we ask each guest to bring an item of significance with them. What did you bring with you today?
So today I brought my medal, my participant medal, not a winner medal, from the last LA Marathon, 2022. And I'll be running the marathon again this year. And I brought it because, one, it's something about me. It's, I'm a runner. I may not look it, but I enjoy running. I'm not the world's best. I'm not elite. But this is one of the things I do to both give me peace of mind, exercise, and
show it.
Show it, yeah. It's my medal. It's last year's medal.
Wow, that's nice.
It is nice. Heavy.
Is it?
Heavy, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it is. Every participant gets it.
Every participant gets it, yeah. And I have many medals. I've done, probably close to 100 races over, my 20s. And it's really interesting. I didn't start running until I was in college. I had done track just for a year when I was in high school, and I did cross country for a little bit. And the one thing I learned in high school and cross country, I had never really run long distance before. I remember running for a few miles and realizing like, oh, I can keep going. Like, I can go kind of forever. And I thought, I didn't know that about myself, and I didn't really pick it up again until I was at UCLA, and I would go to run at Drake Stadium. And I realized I just really love running, it clears my mind. I'm not going to be elite. I'm not here to
Forrest Gump, huh?
Yeah, like Forrest Gump, truly like Forrest Gump.
When did you do your first marathon?
Oh my gosh, the first
Complete your first marathon.
Okay, so my first marathon I ever did, LA Marathon, the original, or one of the original courses where I used to run through South LA, which is actually really cool because you got to see the community really came out for that. I did it with no training at all. I just showed up, me and my coworker, and this is 2007, I think, and total disaster. I remember mile 5, my knee making this audible pop and having extreme pain. And I only survived because my coworker, who also did no training, shout out to Ira out there, he had Advil on him. And so just for the remainder of the time, I was just taking Advil. And then I had to rehabilitate for about a year after that, and thinking, what a dumb thing to do. So I then did my next marathon correctly, where I actually trained and had a great time. Realized marathon can be a lot of fun if you train correctly. And so I've done maybe about 5 marathons so far. I don't really track it because it's not, it's not something I'm not trying to tally up. It's more like, do I feel like this is a year where I can have the time? Because all of it's just the time. Do you have the time to do the long runs? But yeah, for me, running is it, when it comes to sport, like that's my stress relief.
Wait, so I just want to make it clear. You had an audible pop and pain at mile 5, and
That's
you
right.
just endured that with Advil, and you made the full marathon.
Oh yeah, it was terrible. It was pretty terrible. I remember, just the agony and the terrible time. As far as like how many hours it took me to complete, and being passed by people in wheelchairs, and just what they do on the course is that they have people who kind of spray like pain scented, pain relief sprays. And I remember just yelling at this one kid like, spray it all over me, because I was in such pain. That's not the way to do it, people. Train. It takes about 4 to 6 months of good training. All you got to do is just do long runs over time, and that's just the better way to do it. But I highly recommend, even if you're not a runner, even if you walk the majority of it, do a marathon once in your life, because it is such a unique community experience. Like, you get to see all of LA, and kind of speaking to, like exploring those kind of hidden features of the city. There's no better way to do it than by foot, where you get to see parts of town and connect with different cultures and see just how complex and beautiful the city is. And just to see the people come out and cheer you on is such I don't know how to describe it. Like the thrill of that is so cool.
I recognize that you don't, in your stories, you haven't expressed a fear of failure And I'm wondering if you have recognized that in yourself as something that you have developed, or that's something from your upbringing. Because I recognize that now that is a big thing that is sort of in our society, right? Like people are so afraid to try something new, something, the unknown is really afraid. But before we get into that, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
At Wormuth Law, they believe that just because you speak a foreign language, come from a different culture, or simply don't know how to navigate the legal system, that should not prevent you from compensation from injury or receiving benefits. Their multicultural staff have been helping SGVers like you for over 38 years. Visit law888.com or call them at 626-784-7017 and tell them you heard about them on this podcast.
All right, we're back with Jesse. Jesse, before the break, I was mentioning that I noticed this thing about you, and I was wondering if you were aware of that and if you knew where that came from.
So I'll say this, definitely there's always moments of anxiety, especially, in consulting. There's always that time where you need to present an original thought, an idea to move things forward. And that twinge of is the client going to like it? Is this the right thing? And then what I realized, a lot of it is just getting comfortable with getting feedback and being open to criticism and just being okay with it. The other thing that helped me, and a part of it is also I try to just be calm, in working at situations where I was surrounded by very creative, artistic people with a lot of emotion. What I found my edge was that I was not emotional, that I could take it and then help move things forward. And that's just been something about me being an introvert. It really kind of helps where I can really just kind of be quiet in place and think about a strategy. The other thing, though, that I will say, kind of speaking to this idea of there are moments when you kind of decide to change yourself. So during pandemic, being a disaster guy, I realized that, it was such an extraordinary time, and that the people who are going to survive or be successful in surviving were going to be those who had no fear. And so I remember at the beginning of 2020 saying, if somebody comes to me with any idea, I'm going to say yes to it. If it's you want to do a webinar around some topic, yes. You want to start a podcast, absolutely. Whatever is offered to me in this time, I will do it. Even if it's something that is scary to me, I'm just going to take advantage, because I don't know what's going to happen over the next 2 years, So whatever happens, I'm just going to embrace it and do something scary every day, because it'll help me grow and to develop out. So I think also now what you're seeing is 2 years of that, where I have adopted that mindset and really just kind of embrace the scary.
Okay. I'm still searching for how you develop that, only because, it's a unique thing, I think, that you actively are seeking it out. Not only are you okay with it, but you're seeking it out, right? I think people tend to flow like water, right? Go with the least resistances. Maybe it's not so important for you to figure out, but for the listener, right? I think a lot of people hear that, see that, wish that they could be like that, but are still sort of paralyzed at times.
And it's interesting. I think it might be not necessarily innate, but something you need to develop out. And maybe to even go back a little bit further, I have a fear of heights, terrible fear of heights, but I've also gone skydiving. When I was a kid, I remember, being in a lake with my cousins somewhere in Texas and seeing that there was this enormous diving board, and something in my head, this voice saying, go jump off of that, and doing it, So definitely I don't know what it is, but and maybe this is also what I kind of hear about introverts. The introverts are often also comedians on the stage. We don't like being too much in the public, but there's something about us that drives us to be the funny person in the room or to be the risk taker. And so I don't know if it's just a personality trait. I don't know if over time I've nurtured that or kind of dived into that, or we find pleasure in kind of being a risk taker. But it is something about me that is okay, where I'm okay, nobody here wants to talk. I'll be the guy to say something. And so I don't know how to describe it, man, but it's just
how much is intentional and how much does it just happen,
I think it kind of just, you're being painfully shy as a kid, but if somebody says that there's going to be a poetry memorizing competition, I will sign up. I'll do that, and I don't know what that is, I think it's something kind of unique.
Okay, that's the third example, right? Like, oh, I'm scared of heights. Let me go jump out of a plane. Or that, look at that thing that looks scary. Let me go do that.
Yeah.
That's
or
a
the
really
way you
unique thing.
approached the woman who became your wife,
Yeah.
That whole thing. There had to be some sort of plan or
I don't know.
process that you
I guess
you
so. I don't know.
through,
Just like little breakthroughs. Maybe just maybe feeling like, oh, maybe that is my true self, and that the introvertness isn't.
Yeah.
And kind of like you see like the inner self of you kind of lashing out, saying like, no man, like you're meant to be the guy that jumps off the plane, although I'm still very terrified of heights, get me on a ladder. Although it's funny, my dad did roofing and I would do roofing with him. And so you get over that kind of, but this.
Well, when you went skydiving, what was it like the week before you did it? And
terror. Fear.
You just felt like,
why did I sign up for this?
Yeah. Can I get out?
Yeah. And then you do it.
And how did you get on that plane?
Then you're just kind of going, you're like, well, I can't back out while my friends are here,
Oh, you did it with friends?
Did it with friends, yeah. And then being on this plane that has no seatbelts.
If your friends were not there, would you have?
Probably would have. Yeah, I think I would have.
Still would have gone through with it, or you would have backed out?
I think so. Yeah. I think, it's this interesting kind of, maybe it is the idea of, I like risk. Like even starting your own business is a risky proposition, right?
Right.
And almost like, kind of something just popped in my head right now. It's like that life in many ways is like a game, and that there are levels you can achieve by taking certain risks. And I'm interested in seeing how far I can get in the game, and it's interesting. Even thinking about my own company right now, in my head, I'm thinking, I'll probably do this for about 10 years and then I'm going to see what comes next, because even now at like year 3, I'm like, oh, I kind of figured it out. I kind of figured out how to generate revenue and achieve a salary. It's like, okay, now it's kind of time. So I think it's almost like this kind of idea of like in life, there are levels and there's a whole world to explore, and part of it is mastering the game. And in order to master the game, you had to learn how to do certain things, gain certain skills. So I think it's kind of a little bit like that, which is kind of weird to say. I like Mario in a big Mario world. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, Jesse, before we go forward, we usually do this game after the break, but I forgot. So we're going to do it now. This is a game that one of our guests created. It's called Like You Cards. Okay. Right? They don't sponsor us. We're not, affiliated with them, but we really do enjoy them. And they're just, there's 2 questions. One's lighthearted. One's a little bit deeper, but not very penetrating. You can answer one, none, or both. Yeah. So here we go. Would you consider getting plastic surgery? Or what's your best life hack?
Okay. Yeah. I can do both. I mean, plastic surgery. So I remember when I was young, my nose, I always feel like having a big nose, and that was like such a thing. I mean, when you're young, like any part of your body or face like makes you like kind of go crazy. And then getting into college, where realizing there's some girls that just like that, they like that. And maybe it can be an asset sometimes. So then kind of running with that. And then what was the other question?
What's your best life hack?
Oh, my best life hack. Oh, that's a great question. My best life hack. I'll tell you this. When it comes to public speaking, it is rare that anybody will ever remember anything you say, but they will remember that you spoke. And so you need to really not worry so much about the getting up there and the exact words that you say or how you present on certain material. What is most important is just getting up there and speaking, because that's what people remember. They'll remember that you said something important, and they'll probably just follow up with you afterwards. So a lot of this idea of you got to be perfect in public speaking isn't true.
Awesome. Okay. Scott.
Well, the second question, life hack, I don't understand modern English. So I don't even know what that question means. So I don't have to answer. And the first one, well, plastic surgery, probably not, unless it was something really necessary after a surgery or something. But I know when I was 21, all my hair fell out. And I thought, wow, should I get a wig? Or what do I do? Because all of a sudden I have no hair. And then eventually I sort of reconciled, myself to it. Mm-hmm. And then I thought, you know what, like, this is just what I am. So, yeah, why bother?
Right.
You know?
Totally.
So probably I would never get, like, what do you call it? The voluntary kind of cosmetic surgery. But maybe if you really need it after some kind of surgery.
Yeah.
And that's alopecia, right?
Yeah. Yeah. In my case, alopecia, universal alopecia, as opposed to just a particular part of, sometimes just a little bit of hair is lost. But there's another kind where it affects your whole body.
Well, I'll answer both. I would not get plastic surgery unless it's to reconstruct something. But the life hack, I discovered ice baths maybe 2 years ago. Oh, have you tried?
No.
So for the person who is seeking like a mental edge, I love it because it's hard every time. And I know when you're doing it and when you get out, you're like, I just did something very hard that not a lot of people do. And what a great way to start the day. And it already is very invigorating and energizing. But it was the mental edge that I really loved, that I was like, I did this really, really tough thing because I have to overcome it, just to get in this tub of ice.
So for the listeners who still, their email is AOL.com, what exactly does hack mean? It looks like it's something you've learned that makes you...
That would be like a biohack. So a hack is like a shortcut.
Oh, shortcut?
Yeah. So Jesse provided like a hack to accelerate someone's, confidence in speaking.
Okay.
Right? A shortcut. And some people may try to get a mental edge some way over someone or something, or just to, elevate themselves. So, yeah.
Like this, if you're running and you want to go up a hill fast, pump your arms. Don't worry about your legs.
Okay.
Pump your arms and lean in. Like that is a running hack.
Okay.
Oh, are you a hill climber?
I'll hill climb.
Really? Uh-oh.
Yeah.
So you see that picture behind you?
Yeah.
That's at the top of a mountain. The distance is only 0.69 miles, right? 0.69 miles, but it's 1,114 feet of gain.
Yeah.
So I will give you $100 if you can go to that spot in less than 30 minutes.
In less than 30 minutes?
It's only 0.6 miles.
0.6 miles.
0.69. It's 0.69.
And there's no... 0.69.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no danger involved. It's...
I can do it.
Okay.
Tell me where it is.
And you'll give me $100 if you don't.
We're gonna.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Oh
Okay.
no, it's already
there a
been laid
path?
down.
Is there a path?
There's a definite path.
Okay.
Russell and I have done it 300 times, probably
Close
literally.
to 300. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've done
0.69 miles?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I can do that. Show me where it is.
We're gonna videotape
We'll
it.
go
We're
together.
gonna videotape it.
We'll go together.
Yeah, it's at the top of. It's right next to Echo Mountain. If you know where Echo Mountain is,
but
the
let's
top
go.
of Lake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, the top of okay. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's
Okay.
go.
It's very challenging.
I bet.
I mean, it's never easy, and we've done it many, many times.
Yeah.
But it is that like, I did something really challenging, and you feel great.
Okay. Yeah, we could. In fact, you know how we have started this new extended podcast.
Oh yeah, like field stuff.
We can do that with him.
It's already
the site.
He already said that he's going to do it under 30 minutes.
I'll do it, yeah.
I bet he's going to start training though.
Well, I already been training. I'll tell you the South Pass. I just did the South Pass 5K or 10K, thinking, this is my hometown little race, and like it should be a breeze. And it was one of the hardest 10Ks I've ever done because they have these enormous hills. That I wasn't anticipating. They end the race.
Because South Pasadena has a lot up the water tower.
Yeah, so they make you run up there at like mile 6.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this? Why is this pain happening right now? So
Yeah.
now I do that kind of up. So I'll take the challenge. Let's see
Oh,
what
good.
happens.
And I finally figured out how to monetize this podcast. Every guest.
A challenge. It is
Yes,
your challenge.
right.
You should have said $1,000.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, this is going to be fun. Well, that's something that we really enjoy to do in the San Gabriel Valley. And now, Jesse, we're going to find out some things that you like to do in the San Gabriel Valley.
So let's talk about three of your favorite places or things to do. Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Let's talk about the Rose Bowl, which is near my house. First of all, if you're a runner, it's one of the best places to go because it's exactly 3 miles around.
Yeah.
So if you're trying to track miles and such, that's a great kind of, way to do it. It's also where my Bruins play, so I love the Rose Bowl. There's always a good flea market happening at least once a month. I think once a month there. Yeah. So that's one. The second one is the Arroyo Seco, which is where I named my company after. And it's just a really cool, very local nature preserve. You see all kinds of great local fauna. You see horses. You see the community out there. There's also a golf course and some really kind of cool other extracurricular activities. And then the third place I'm going to give a shout out to, there's a local restaurant right near my house called Cause and Pie. And it was started a few years before the pandemic by Soshi and Casey, husband and wife team. One, it's very near my house, so it's the place I go for good coffee, good food. I'm very lucky I could just walk there. But they were also my touch point in the pandemic, as when I was trying to understand what a small business was going through. I got to see their journey and was talking to them when they had to pivot to using things like Postmates for the first time, when they had to create a whole outdoor space, when they had to really kind of pivot their business model, when they dealt with labor shortages. And they became a case study for a statewide economic development recovery playbook that I created. And so they have a special place in my heart and just a great food, very popular.
What is the name again?
Called Cause and Pie.
How do you spell that?
COS and then ampersand PI, named after their two boys.
Yeah, I'm looking it up here right now. Oh, that's their boys' names.
Yeah. Combined.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they'll have to add a new one because Soshi is about to have her third kid. I think another boy, so they'll have to add another and to it.
I see. Well, Jesse, thank you for sharing your story with us and our listeners. If people want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Sure. Probably LinkedIn is best. You can find me at Jesse Torres CA on LinkedIn. That's my handle. Or you can always email me at jesse.torres@arroyowest.com.
Awesome. Normally at this point, I'm not sure if I ever will see the guests again, but I
will be there.
Are you going to go? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to be exciting. Well, stay tuned for that because we'll put that on social media and stuff. It's going to be exciting. I think it's exciting for us because we do it. It is challenging and to share it with someone else, is always special. No one has ever returned that we've ever
But we have done it seriously close to 300 times.
Yeah.
So it's not like, it's
possible.
Yeah. No, there's been one or two people who have returned.
Oh, maybe. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Billy has gone back.
Yeah.
I'm ready for it. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, stay tuned for that. Thank you again, Jesse, for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, there you go. There's another episode for you telling you more about the people here in the San Gabriel Valley. If you like it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Check out our full catalog of episodes on our website, sgvmasterkey.com. And until next week, we'll see you then.
You've been listening to the SGV Master Key Podcast. Our passion is the small businesses and the people that make up the San Gabriel Valley, and it's our honor to have them on the show. We hope you've enjoyed it. Make sure to like, rate, and review. The show is produced by Russell Mano, edited by Victoria Allers of Kind Monster Productions. Thanks for listening, and see you next time on the SGV Master Key Podcast.
Mother, no, kind of mother.